Oh boy. I'm like so excited. So you guys are cool with me recording?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to look at any of the videos?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's cute. It's cute. It was like a family on the beach with like 2 kids, and they were talking about stuff, and then there was like a couple at Central Park, and it was just
Yeah, we went to the Alice in Wonderland sculpture in Central Park and did that. We're up in the Adirondacks at the John Brown Park and spoke to, and you walk up to like strangers. This is not planned, right? This is planned. So I'm actually more nervous about the planned bit. If you go really slow, right? Like the whole idea is we're gonna walk really slow, and you guys are nature people, so you get it.
I brought my favorite nature thing with me.
What do you got?
Found this one time, part of a chalet.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
It's definitely part of a bigger deal.
Yeah. I know what that is.
Flower.
Beautiful. That's so cool that you brought that.
Yeah.
That's so cool you brought that.
metal birds, and people were putting them in
trees.
like in the cities where like there weren't a lot of like things like that. I like things like that. I don't for me, like I don't like the little like duck, like it doesn't, I don't know, I like things that are a little bit. No, the wood, they're not the wooden ducks.
You don't want them comical, you want them representing.
I'm actually,
So here's the deal. So I found like these for archery targets of animals, and I'm not a hunter, and it's okay, people hunt, and if they eat, that's all, I'm not like prejudiced against that. But I was like, let me see about that. So I bought a bunch of them, and I ended up painting on them so you couldn't see the target anymore. And then I shrunk wrapped them, and they're around the garden everywhere, and they're out in the garden now about 4 years. And so you get the hint about the black bear, the mountain lion. Yeah. All right, this is beautiful. This is like the first shot. So we planted all the trees here 25 years ago.
Right, so I was wondering, we're like, this is the only place where you come in there.
This was grass. This
branch was gonna have to go, and then you got it.
I just kept pruning it to make that move. Yeah. So you support it.
Before you came out here, that even you just walk in 10 feet, and all of a sudden you're in like a different.
It reminds me of camping because you have all these pines.
So right, the pine, the forest floor, and the hammock. And when you're laying in the hammock and you look up into that white pine tree, you're just gone,
Yeah.
So do you like? Is there any special permission about planting trees that are not normally here, or it just doesn't matter?
No. There's the only rule against certain trees are street trees if you're planting under wires.
Yeah.
You can't plant these.
Do you want our oak tree babies that are growing in our backyard that are like right against the wall that we have to take out because they're gonna like
saplings? Yeah, saplings. So I'm gonna show you one.
The squirrels planted them. They're like this high now, but they're in spots where it's gonna be really bad if we don't move it. It's gonna destroy everything. So I'm like, do you want them? Yeah.
Well, you're adjusting to what you want. Like you see all these little round circles? Those are all like you kind of see. Those are all squirrels. They stick their nose in there and they go like this.
They don't know where they buried half the nuts.
Who walked by first and said, "What the heck"?
It was both of us together.
You're the one that actually found it on the website, but we always used to walk by in this like direction.
Okay.
I remember my kid has a Polaroid camera, so when we were. That I got for her specifically to take like nature pictures, and we were stuck inside and there was no camp and everything, and so like we took a picture of your sculpture over there, like that was one of the things on there, like we would take, like this would be like the area.
So it was the tree at the end of Oakland, took down all the poles. I asked the homeowner, do you mind like when they start cutting this up, can I have it? I'm gonna make it.
I've almost done that.
Homage to Sandy.
We had a couple of those big trees that we were cutting down and we were walking past. I almost like took a stump, but I was like, I don't know what
am I gonna do with it?
But, like
This is what you do with it.
There, and I almost took it, but I was like, I don't know.
You just add to like a little rock, and like this one I carved out. So I carved them along the growth lines. So the rings.
I have a different. You have more of like the complete nature. I was like, I have more of the wanting it to be nature, but also to give my kid like a ninja warrior thing in the backyard. Like she needs, right? My kid's like a monkey. So in my mind, I was thinking of like getting enough stumps so that she could kind of like, jump out back and forth and like do a whole thing.
So you guys want to go in first and I'll follow behind you?
Okay.
I thought
Are you trying to find pictures?
No, I thought I had the picture that you took out and made an actual picture out of. Like it was no filter needed. It was just the sky was completely.
The
sky was like all red. Yeah.
Oh, sunset?
Yeah, like a sunset.
Over Saranac Lake, yeah.
All right.
Okay, this way?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, this is what struck me first. I'm like, wait.
There used to be I used to have a cover here to like really focus you in, so it was all blue at this point.
You found the bear?
You found the bear, so you're gonna make the left, right, the curtain.
There?
Yeah.
Wow, how much do you have to dig to get down here?
What did you say?
Wow.
You have to really dig.
Oh, dig, yeah. We dug.
The whole thing.
This was flat.
Where do you want to go first, Becky?
I don't know.
Let's go to the top, and then we'll go to the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing with those. I think they're for chimneys or whatever.
You don't have to deal with beavers or anything.
You got raccoon issues, so we couldn't keep the turtles. They kept taking the turtles. And
Oh, you have real turtles?
oh yeah, real turtles. We had real turtles for the longest time.
Turtles or tortoises? Like turtles in the water?
Yeah, little red sliders.
Do you do an Airbnb? You do an Airbnb with this subject?
My wife actually asked me if we would do that. That's my daughter's bedroom down there. And there's some fish in that guy, there's fish below.
So we went. My parents took me to a national park when I was a kid. And they always have the rule, they're like, don't take anything, leave everything where it is. And this was by Seattle, for those redwoods.
Oh, wow.
Could you imagine leading here? To be in your river.
So we found an acorn this big, right? My dad emptied everything out of my knapsack, and we put that acorn in.
That's a great.
We had an acorn this big sitting in our house for a very long time.
That's a beautiful story. You know, that's a good rule for in general, like if people are taking stuff wholesale. But if you're taking that and that makes you love nature and you're like hanging on to that, I think that's an overall plus.
It's also very different if you're not pulling something out of the ground,
Right,
you're not picking something.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But after 15 years, and like 20 years, like disintegrated in the house. So my parents
Oh,
went
to
and-
seed.
Yeah, so they went on vacation again and they brought back another one. But it was only half the size, but they're giant pieces of nature.
Beautiful.
You gonna jump it, Dad? No?
So that's a that
Eventually there'll be a rope sign. You need to do it.
Ah, zip line.
I actually thought about a zip line like right along the back. I stopped at that. One of the things we have during the summer is misters. So this whole, we're calling Micron Canyon, fills up with mist. And when the sun rises, it's just mind-boggling when the wind blows it.
And then when there's the comes across, it's really pretty.
Yeah.
So during different seasons, do you like sell like flowers and stuff? When it's like
Well, it's so shaded that it's like you need like a rainforest plant life, like chintz.
You get these big rocks to get back there.
So
yeah, that's perfect.
So at the beginning, we had access on the side of the house, and this is all bobcats, and back, pulling out soil with bobcats. About 4 20-yard containers of sand left here.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was. And the rock that the water's falling off of there is really huge. It's much bigger than what you see.
Can you measure it to see how
No, it was too big to bring, so we actually had it boomed over the house with a crane. Pretty crazy. And so we cut a hole out of the foundation to make that door. The back of the house faces south, so that was part of the plan when we bought the house to do this. So like Native Americans, when they did their caves, the cave was always facing south. So in the summer, the sun was high and it wouldn't go in the cave, keep it cool. And in the winter, the sun came into the cave to keep it warm.
so smart?
We're like a block from my house.
We're blocking your house. We sometimes sit in traffic to go and look at something.
Yeah, when I leave, So under that ivy right there is the hot tub. Yeah, there. I used to use the hot tub all the time.
There's a hot tub under where?
Under that ivy right there, a very big hot tub. And so when we would keep the waterfall on all winter,
Yeah.
and the ice that would form off of here was incredible. People would come just to see the ice because, you know, the cold air would sink in here and we get ice before anybody else. And nature lovers love ice, you know, because it's always different every kind of day. So you'd be in the hot tub at 130, looking at the ice coming over with the sun coming through the rising steam, and you really needed to pinch yourself.
Yeah.
This is really the coolest thing ever. This is what you're looking out at.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she really loves it.
Oh, look at the dog.
What do you see, a pussycat?
Oh no, I just see the Chewy box.
We used to never know the Chewy box.
We get Chewy deliveries.
Yeah.
We get Chewy deliveries, yeah. So I'll go into get some access to private property to get the red cedar. We brought this all over from a hunt club, cut it out for us.
Yeah.
They do it in a non-strip way.
I keep seeing it from my kids' eyes, and I keep thinking like, this is such a good monkey.
Oh, she's gonna want to come back and see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get reactions and I want to talk to people about what they love about nature. Do you feel like your relationship with nature has been growing your whole life? Like different ways?
Interesting. I feel like my relationship with nature was snuffed out, if anything. It was like,
How'd that happen?
because I grew up in the city. So I grew up in Bell Harbor, which is 4 blocks wide. There's a beach on one side.
I know Bell Harbor.
Bay is on the other, and you're looking at the New York skyline. So you're not in the city.
Well, that's nature.
Right, you're not in the city because you could hear the ocean every day. Like for me being over here, the running water is like, it's like the constant reminder. Hello, you're in nature, you know?
Ah, interesting.
So, and my parents didn't go camping or anything, so it wasn't really till I was much older that I went like on my first camping trip. And I remember when I got there, I had to like wrap myself in a space blanket. The first night, everything felt like it was turning like this on me.
Wow.
Because there's no noises of the city. It was like, it took me one day to like shake off the city living. And like the next morning I woke up and I was like breathing easy.
Oh man.
I was smelling nature and I was like, this is for me. This is how man is supposed to live. Not like sitting in traffic and I went 2 inches. I went 2 inches. Let me go in that lane. I'm gonna get 2 more inches. A red light. Let me hit the gas and then hit the brake. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm doing in traffic now? I'll roll, like on the Southern State Parkway, we're doing 10, 15.
Yeah.
Certain times. I'll roll down the window like I used to when I was a kid and put my arm out and feel the air. I'll do anything to get in contact. So my hand will be, like yesterday I'm looking at the temperature gauge, it was 53, but my hand was literally freezing and the rest of my body was, so that reminded me like winter, right? And like, so just looking up, when I'm in the city, I'll look straight up at the sky and connect that way.
Yeah.
There's all different ways, kicking a leaf, touching the bark, like just, you know.
That's why I was keeping the shell in the car to grab it sometime and I'm like,
perfect example. Perfect example.
Take a look at this. Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah. What about you, Beck?
Yeah, Beck.
What about you?
Has your relationship with nature, you want to come up and sit down?
No, I feel bad because I don't want to say anything negative.
No, I want to hear negative.
No,
Negative's okay.
No, it took me to their siblings are 10, 14, and 17 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And they're my best friends and I love them, but I didn't grow up with them.
I understand.
So I was kind of grew up like an only child.
Yeah.
So when it was family trips, for me, it was just like me and my parents.
Right.
And that was always really hard.
Very adult.
Yeah.
So it was like very hard for me, I guess, like be the only kid. So whenever they were taking me places, I don't think I remember ever appreciating where we went. I was more like whiny. Like, you know, like
you weren't calm.
Like it's hard to be like that only kid.
Yeah.
Have you turned down? They went on a cruise to Alaska once when I was 15, and I didn't go.
Wow.
Like I didn't want to go because I didn't want like me and my parents on a cruise, not knowing anyone else, having a couple of like, and then I'm sitting there thinking like, oh my god, like we went to so many places.
You also have a lot of nature from your, like the first time I went to the house, like I was like standing in the kitchen and there's like a window and you look out from the window and they're like up on a hill.
Yeah, they live in San Diego and they're looking over a bunch of mountains.
Mountain
the view
range.
is beautiful.
Like they get it in the morning.
You're in the kitchen and you just see that whole.
Every morning you're like reminded. Judo chop to the face of nature. Really fitting.
I don't think they have
The judo chop to the face of nature.
Yeah. But right now, but it's like really beautiful.
I went to sleepaway camp also, which was all nature. It was very organized nature also. Like
Yeah.
It's very
So
organized.
different, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're just wandering is a different story.
I remember, I was in Yellowstone with my parents, and it's gorgeous. They went to Yosemite this summer, and they sent us a million pictures. Like, they love that. Like, I grew up with it. It was really, I was like very bratty. Like, I didn't want to be with them, so I couldn't appreciate where I was.
This is like you gotta find nature without the gift shop.
Without the what?
Nature without the gift shop. Like you go to a place and you know there's no gift shop.
Nature without the gift shop.
Yeah.
Very interesting way to put it. Yeah.
It's an inspiring place back there.
Thanks.
How would we be able to take a Yella, like, somewhere, just her, and actually have her?
You can. She used the iPad. You can't. You know, just make an app and maybe she'll do something. Yeah. Imagine the springtime, because you get the audio and then the visual, and then like the smells also.
Yeah.
You plant things like for smell. In the spring.
And when it gets a little warmer and the cool air is up here and a little breeze blows the cool air up on the deck.
Yeah.
And it really connects you to microclimate and the fresher air is down here. Like lichens are growing down here and they're not growing up here.
What are?
Lichens, you know the little like low, they look like scale on the rock.
Okay.
You can see it on this one. Yeah, you can see it.
Do you ever get?
That's like a sign of fresh air.
Yearly nesters or anything? That, like,
Yeah.
coming back every year. It's like
Yep. Birds love to bathe on that rock. I've always said when it's falling like that. And there was one time starlings, there was a whole pack of them on there at one time.
Oh, and they like shimmer.
And right, and they flew over the house in the winter, I swear.
Really, like, this was very, beautiful.
The birch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's river birch.
So this like heals constantly and then it like replenishes itself?
Yeah, well, you know what? It doesn't really peel off. Some of it does.
Keeps going, like,
I mean, you can peel it off. Like feel the inside. It's got like powdery.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's like this continuously. Oh, it's like really, really.
There's three. That's okay. When we planted that, I wanted a tree at every level. So when we planted that, like at that new level, it just felt so cool to put a tree down there. You know. That was not a space, you know, that was underground by 11 feet. And there's a big dry well under your feet, because I would say, like, what's the worst case scenario, right? Say this thing freezes like the coldest winter and then it rains, then the basement floods, right? So I made that level where you're staying a little lower than basement, and the back of the house against south, so the back of the house gets warmed by the sun, so ice doesn't freeze underneath. You see, right under that first step, there's a grate.
Yeah. There's like rock type.
So right, so that grate goes down to a huge dry well, like 4 feet under you, and that never freezes. Oh. So if you were in here, yeah. So my father would call me every time he had a wet basement. So you have water in your basement? I'm like, no, sorry, dude. I could pop a pipe and make you happy.
You got like the curving branches. Like, how does that work?
Most of that is just natural. It's like looking for sun. You know, it's like making moves around something else. And that's a trumpet vine. So that's a maintenance. You have to really make sure it doesn't take over on the roof. So every spring I cut it back and it produces flowers. We've had hummingbirds back there tapping those.
My parents also, for many years, there's a hummingbird that made a nest on a little tree at like the alcove in the front of their house because it's all covered.
Were you saying San Diego?
In San Diego, a hummingbird, and like it's this big. It's so cute. And there was always a couple weeks where they would just like take a lot of videos and send, and then they were gone.
I saw your phone number, San Diego. I lived in San Diego for a year. I was in La Jolla for like 2 months before the rates went insane.
Oh, yeah.
And I lived there for a year, and I said, this place is so beautiful, but how could I miss New York? And I actually did because of the madness. I had to come back for the crate because it was just too calm there. I used to show this a lot back in the day, so it's 25 years old, the garden. And around 5 years into it, people would be coming all the time, friends. And then I got a job building a garden up in Mid-Hudson Valley. It was a 4-year job.
Wow.
It's wild. And that was fantastic. So the idea of this project, so you guys are officially part of the project now as honey makers, right?
Okay.
So you're bringing the sweetness on video of what you love about nature. And because I haven't been on social media, so there's no followers yet, but I plan on promoting it where there will be. And the idea is I want to attract the queen bee. And the queen bee is someone that's going to want to build something like this in a mall parking lot.
Okay, so just anyone can just come in and
I want to pull up a mall parking lot and do this, but like I'm dreaming what the next one's going to be like with floodplains and, next step stuff. You're not going to...
Rooftop in Manhattan?
Rooftop, man, rooftop is ultimately where I would love to build one.
Right.
And all you need is like a rise of 20 feet, because you need the levels.
Yeah, you do need the levels.
You have to have the levels. It's very critical.
Yeah, it's coming
I
out.
kind of like the messier look more than like the
Right.
look.
One of my daughters said, nature's not neat, but it's cool.
Right.
And that's what you're saying right
But
now.
also because
Yeah. Do you build like a crow's nest, or not really? Like on one of these trees?
Oh, man.
Like way up top.
What I want to do is, because you would see the city from here now.
Right, you probably would.
I would love to and I've looked into it, they have these motorized, so you could get rope up there and it will pull you up. So you could do what you're saying, a crow's nest or a place to sit.
Like a rope bridge. Like into the other.
The tree out front is the tree to do it in because it's the most tallest one.
Yeah, it's very strong.
And you're hitting on some of the things I haven't done yet that I would really love to do.
Well, you also were talking about how, like, on a smaller scale, you want to help that people can kind of do that kind of thing in their own.
If I show you my dashboard on the Jeep, I have a piece of, like what you pulled out of your pocket.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a little piece of driftwood, a little piece of moss, a little something that you feel strongly to, and then when you're in traffic and you look at that, I'm telling you, you snap out. So I tell people, like, there's like a little sitting rock in the pond back there, and you see that pillow over there right behind you.
Yeah.
So there's all these little places here, right? If you sit in those places and just do a little meditation, like just try to calm it down and just like, at some point I want you guys just to sit and we won't talk. That's important before you leave. So then you don't have to go back there ever again. You might not have to, but you will always remember what it felt like to have your feet in this little pond.
A memory like that around the corner from your house.
Yeah. I mean, I have that memory. I kayaked so much at Hempstead Lake, so I have Hempstead Lake memories, Halls Pond memories.
You grew up around here?
Well, I grew up when my family moved from the Bronx here in '69. Then my wife and I moved away, and then we moved back to be near family. But I've always been deeply connected to nature, and it's only growing, And I find different ways, and this is like, I don't think I'm going to top this, because every time I'm done with one of these talks, I'm like, nature, like Superman. And I'm ready to do the next part of this project. Right, part of this project is showing landscapers there's another kind of garden that you can do. You can do a wilderness garden. They're not doing wilderness gardens.
Right, they're doing everything.
They're doing
like
beds, they're doing lawns, they're doing edging, they're doing poodle pruning. And people like that, but if they start seeing more, because everyone comes here just likes it, right? Because it's not because I made it. This is how we, like you said, this is 50,000 generations we were in this.
Right.
Make it where it looks like the spring is happening in the southeast corner. It's rising up out of the earth and then it's falling. And logjam waterfall is pretty much when logs fall down in nature, they change the course of things. And that's a very fundamental part of nature. You wanna go up? Right. So that's like I got those stones. So they're called in nature they're called rock cut basins.
She built, the person who bought the house and built a sunroom. So she built that in her backyard, and it's like a really pretty sunroom because it's just the whole thing is windows, and we have like a really big.
Well,
I want to extend that to the backyard.
So what's right outside those windows?
Just the yard.
It's just
because you could have like vines growing right outside that glass, and make that inside space seem like this.
Yeah.
Like manicured.
We're actually lifted up.
Which doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Manicured, because that's man curing. It's not. It cures us. We don't cure it. Yeah, that is a fundamental issue. So let me ask you this question. I'd like to get people's opinion on like the fear of nature and like how that affects bonding with nature. Do you think, because I could look at it two ways, like we have a lack of fear because we're not so much worried about the mountain lions coming down the block, or so maybe we're not as connected and focused because we're not always in fear and high alert and aware of everything else also. Or the other way of looking at it could be, I fear it, so I just want to stay away from it. I'm afraid of, like, you know, getting bit by a mosquito, the 1 in a million chance of something, you know, because I don't know anyone that's gotten around here killed from a mosquito.
Right.
So, like, do you have any feeling on fear of nature and how it might affect the quality of your relationship with nature?
Like, there was like a really, really big spider that kept making a really impressive spider web, but it was doing it right over, or it was like a gazebo type thing, and it did it like right at the entrance. So there was like a good 2 weeks where I was just like, okay, I'm not going in there because it's just, you win, you took over, you have it.
So it blocked your access.
The whole, it was huge.
But wait, let me make sure. But you loved looking at it. That's why you left it.
I left it because it was very impressive.
Clearly worked really hard to make a
right.
web.
It was very impressive, and I didn't have to go there. So
That's
I was
great.
like, just kept watching it like do its thing, but there's a part of me that's scared of like, oh great. So I know when it's, even when it's not there, like if I'm sitting down, it might be, but it runs away from you the second you get, like the second you see it, it runs. So I'm not that concerned about it.
Okay.
It'd more be like accidentally sitting on a really big spider and just that like that yuck feeling of it. But
that's all very normal.
Right. I mean, it's funny because if there's a bug that's in my house, if it's, there's a blue jay right there.
Yeah, there's a blue jay, yeah.
If it's a spider, it's going because I am that I'm very scared of. If it's like a beetle or a firefly, whatever, then I take it outside. But if it's outside, I generally I leave it alone. You're in your space, I leave you alone. I guess it's kind of like if you come into my space,
the lady can eat them.
well, wouldn't we catch them?
The dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loves
So I guess
them.
it's kind of like I love nature, I respect it, but thank God we haven't had like mice or whatever, because that would be really impossible for me because I think they're really cute. So that would.
You're like right on the balance line because it's a total balance. Like, it's very normal to be afraid or want to protect your own property, right? You work hard for your property.
One year when I was camping, I looked at my friend, and the side of his face looked like this. And
What?
And I didn't want to freak him out. I was like, did something bite your face? He's like, something bit my face. Yeah. Right. So his answer back was, he's like, I have two choices, because you're stuck on an island and you can't leave at night. No boat can come. You're stuck there. So he's like, I can either freak out or I cannot freak out. He's like, and I'm just gonna choose not to freak out. He's like, it's my choice. This guy, he's like, his mental capacity is very, very, very
Once
high.
you know that you're
That's a lot of control.
Yes, but it was a huge lesson, because last year when we went camping, we brought the boat up to a hollowed out tree and I like threw the rope around it, and it was a hornet's nest. They came out and they like,
they stung you right away.
They stung me right away. I got like a few bites in my face, and I immediately thought about this kid. I'm like, I could either freak out and make everyone drive me to a hospital and to a whole thing, or I could get in the boat because I had to pick you guys up anyways, which was going back to the car.
Yeah.
It would take like a good half.
So when we stayed on the
minutes.
island, we just stayed really far.
I was like, let's see what happens, and it's gonna be like a good hour, and it went down and like relaxed. But my fear, and when you said fear in nature, I wasn't thinking about bugs and animals because I've seen a black bear when you're camping. I've seen big animals, and normally you make a lot of noise and they disappear. My fear is more like being 9 years old in Bell Harbor and the ocean is rushing onto the land and coming up, and it's like, well, where do we go? We're surrounded by water. And I was afraid of thunderstorms for like a year when I was like 9 years old.
Oh, so you experienced some floods when you were young.
Right. So like out here, I went to camp that summer, I heard a big rainstorm and like the bunk is shaking and I'm feeling a lot of anxiety. I can't be centered. But now I hear a thunderstorm and it's something relaxing again.
Yeah, you're processing it all. You're not just letting it take over.
Right.
You're bringing it out of the unconscious state and you're thinking through what's logical, what makes sense. That's a pretty healthy way to go.
It's a
Yeah, that would be my number one fear right there.
The wildfires?
Yeah.
Up with them, it's kind of like you just...
Because you could predict where the flood's coming.
Yeah.
Fire.
To look in advance.
Fire is a hard thing to think ahead of. I mean, I guess firefighters have a better shot, right? Like they know kind of what's going on, but
The wind changes.
Whatever way the wind blows.
Story changes.
Yeah.
that's what I can't really. You shouldn't suppress that fear. That's real.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, I think the fear people have is the fact that the fear is waning in terms of people going out and hunting like really big animals and then they get gored to death. I'm like, well, yeah, those animals are gonna like you're not supposed to put yourself on a regular basis within 3 feet of these animals. Like,
Right.
You're not. That's not what's supposed to happen. They are predators and you are prey.
Those Las
So
Vegas
it's
guys.
good when people, like the people that get mauled by a bear because they tried to get a video. I'm like you're not.
Right, and they do
Be
like the
with those
selfie with
things.
the animal. They turn their back to them. That's
And then
beautiful.
They get mauled. Like you should have a healthy fear of a predator. That's
Yeah.
what they're there for. To there's like a middle ground.
So like so the perfect example of like little things connecting to nature, like you holding that shell, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any other examples, like little things, like? Yeah, let's hear some of those.
It's a
like
bowl.
branches.
It's a bowl, but it's just like metal. It's made out of metal, but it's just branches. It looks like branches.
Yeah.
So, but it has holes all over. So it never really was useful for anything, and it also is sharp on the top. So when I would like put it on the table, I'd end up like slamming my hand on it. But I could never get rid of this thing because I loved it so much because it looked like a bowl made out of branches, and I loved it, the look of it, and I
Right.
just kept taking it from place to place to place wherever I moved with like no real good use for it.
Interesting.
And when a couple years ago when we went camping, a friend was with us and she's very artsy and very creative, and she found like a really nice stick on the floor, and it was a nice thick one, and she carved our names into it, and then she like burned the edges so like our names are on this stick. And when we moved into the house now, I realized like if I put the bowl, if we nailed it to the wall above the fireplace, and then I put the stick through it.
And the bowl
So-
is facing you vertically.
and it's holding the stick.
I
That has our
love
names
it.
on
I love it.
So it really finally found it.
There you. That's so great. You got rewarded.
I don't know.
So it was something organic, but it was man-made, but it was organic shapes because it was
Right.
irregular.
And I just love
You
them.
love
I could never
that.
figure out
And then you just you were
Landscape.
so you were patient. You were looking down long term.
Yeah.
That's all
I
very.
could not get this is probably like $15 from Target. I could not get. I kept
Yeah.
taking it with me from
Had
place
nothing to do
place
with the
place.
dollars.
And I tried putting like a thing inside, like a pretty table or something to like put
Hold
it just
stuff.
Never had the right
I love it.
thing.
People in the city all go to Central. They all go to the parks.
Central Park.
I did that once, finally
Central
for
Park.
myself. I went and I stayed in a hotel one night, like that was sort of close by, and I just stayed there for the night so that I could check out the first thing in the morning and take my backpack and walk a half hour to Central Park. So I had never actually just like spent the day in Central Park.
It's a very
I'm from
wonderful.
California, so it was just never,
But there's
never
certain
a thing.
facts about the park that I never knew. Like that the trees, each tree is planted for a reason. These aren't just random trees there.
No.
They put a lot of work
And
into
bird
it.
watchers show up there because birds stop in all different places.
Yep. Yeah, that was all built as a landscape design project.
Yeah.
Olmsted.
That's like probably one of the biggest ones I can think of.
Yeah, and he also built Prospect Park
Prospect, yeah, I guess
in
that.
Brooklyn. Same guy, and inspiration to me for sure. A lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah, we were at Prospect Park Zoo a couple weeks ago, and it's even just like walking around there, even though it's small, it's, you know.
Yeah, they did a lot of work.
I have a membership to the Wildlife Conservation Society for like the Bronx Zoo and all that. I keep it up. Just going to the Bronx Zoo and walking around there, like that's one of my happy places. Because I grew up in San Diego, so the San Diego Zoo is just amazing.
I blew my mind when I
know
went into there.
I've seen people running there in the mornings, like people that
The
have
San Diego
they
Zoo,
have the
Balboa
pass,
Park.
they have the pass, and they go there right when it opens, and they like jog it. That's their run.
San Diego, man, it blew my mind when I from here,
Yeah.
Balboa Park.
That's
Where did you guys meet?
drum lessons.
Drum lessons,
He's a music teacher.
Oh wow!
yeah.
So the art is flowing through you.
I do like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be outside. I kind of feel not right when I'm inside too long. I think there's a price to pay.
I don't feel nervous about ticks back here. That's a big thing.
Yep. Well, this is kind of like, it's wilderness, but it's like so not connected to the bigger wilderness. So where ticks and, deer, there's no deer back here,
Right.
Yeah, I think we have a possum under this deck. I don't know how often, but I'll see his tracks in the morning, her tracks.
Have you ever seen like the baby? It's like they're
Yes, they're adorable. I mean,
so possums are a little bit scary when you run into them at 10 o'clock at night right in front of your door
They
with
don't
your
see
dog.
you.
That's the
because they
same
can't see
They
you.
don't really see
And it's
Right,
pretty
but-
obvious when you look at them, their eyes are
Right.
like,
So in Queens, back in Queens, before when I was married to my ex, I was coming back with my dog, and he was a Shetland sheepdog, and he was 20 pounds, and he was the same size as the possum. And I get back to the house at 10 o'clock at night, and I get almost up to the door, and all of a sudden I realize there's a possum at the door,
wow.
and it's just as big as my dog, and I'm stuck. So I'm like, I can't. It wasn't getting scared. It wasn't moving away.
What were you trying
I
to do to
couldn't-
scare it? Were you making noises?
Well, Riley barks at everything.
I don't know. It was like 10 o'clock at night, so maybe I didn't want to like make a ton of
Yeah,
noise.
make a noise.
But it did move eventually. But I looked at it, I'm like, you win. You have the house. Like, I don't have to do like how to safely get past. You're literally in my front door.
You're guarding the house. Maybe he's guarding the house.
Right, because it's just like I'm not like just blindly scared of things, but I also have respect for them. Like if I walk up to you, you will probably bite me. So
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
surprise them. That's, I also find like when I'm back here or at the beach, so we drive on to the beach or the beach permit, we go there a lot, like
Which beach?
Gilgo Beach. So it's past, if you have a four-wheel drive, $75 New York State permit,
Yeah.
you can drive, it's about half an hour from here. It's past Jones Beach on Ocean Parkway, and you go on the sand and you go right up to the ocean. And it's pretty convenient when you have kids and you're bringing like schlepping a whole like, supplies and blah, blah, blah. So you can leave them in the vehicle. And so I go there to work. So I take the computer and just staring at that and like listening to the ocean.
Yeah.
So sitting here working, it's like I feel the creative, whatever you're doing creatively or just meditating, it's an assist.
yeah.
Like you have an assistant like helping you, I don't know, clear out, get to the bottom of it.
So this was built over 25 years, or 20 years ago?
No.
It was all built at once. Like, what
So
was the
like in the
build
first
time?
two years maybe, or a year and a half, so the digging the hole, making the retaining walls, putting the hole in the house down there, that was all like within a year. And then the plantings, put another year, getting all the water flow, like about a year, but this was me doing it. I also owned a small limousine company at the time. So I was working with that and doing this on the side.
So how old are your kids now?
As low. So I have 3 kids, one 31, going to be 30, and 24.
Okay, so they kind of grew up helping you a little bit. Because they were
watching. Yeah, they weren't really, they were too young.
Right.
Because they would play around a little bit.
Right, but they,
so
like,
when this
grew
was
up with
all
it.
sand, yeah.
Wow.
So like when we bought the house, I promised my wife we'd do all the inside renovations before we did this. And so I made, because she made me think about this, I made a little pond for inside the house and a little waterfall so I could hear the water flow and keep me motivated to knock walls down to get to this. But it's 25 years old. That's why I tell people that's what, you know, the vines, when you see them like this thick, that takes some time. But you get people that will plant mature trees, you know. They'll just stick them in the ground and you get it.
My parents for the redwood acorn, if you want to plant it back here.
But I'm thinking for the mall parking lot, like when you're working with an absolute blank canvas,
Yeah.
that's exciting, right? The before and afters of that are stunning. It's funny, it's like when you stop talking, then you realize this thing is always talking.
So, yeah. Yeah. So in the front yard, when I see all the pines on the ground, so I remember someone was explaining it to me. They're like, all right, so the acorns drop, but they have to get covered by these pines, and that's kind of like nature. It'll plant it on its own. All the trees will come up. Somebody did something with oranges. They had like all these orange peels and whatever it was. They had truckloads of it, and they dumped it on this piece of land. And like within 5 years, it all disintegrated, and that whole land like
Rebounded.
so lush. And like we were saying before about the forest fires, like it's a huge tragedy, but like I'm sure 10 years after the forest fire, like, that place is starting to grow again.
Absolutely. Chernobyl, all these places.
Yeah, they come back.
Yeah. Yeah, nature will definitely come back. Yeah, I actually just saw...
We are the bookmarks because we take them into picture. We're like, that's what it's supposed to be. That's what it is right now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I just saw a thing on Bikini Island where they did all the testing.
Yeah.
And they went back there and the coral reefs are like mind-boggling because we just had...
Where they did nuclear testing?
Yeah. And the reefs are back.
Like nothing could grow nuclear.
That's exact. So it was this new, I think it's Nova, but it's the new age of nature, and that's what they're doing. They're showing like like the Yellow River in China, how it was killing people and flooding, and then they came up with a plan how they terraced it out, and now it's like the most fertile place on Earth. So the recovery of the planet is. I'm not worried about that because once we're gone or once we get depleted because we're screwing it up enough, it will recover. This project's about the time we have here, the specialness of the planet. We need to be just enjoying that because you go to Mars and you can't take a deep breath.
Yeah.
So like the disconnect is sad for the individual more than the planet, if you ask me. It's like, we have to sustain the planet. I think it's more like we need to sustain our approach, and that's where the richness is. And you guys get it. But not everyone gets that, and that's sad as heck to me because it's pretty unbelievable when if you stare at it and don't talk long enough and you just really get good at, this is what I want to ask you. So like it's always changing, right? And if you're patient enough and spend like the day with it, it's obvious like the sun is moving and then the shadows and the colors. And so are you, how do I put this? So are you aware like of certain subtle changes, like if you stare into it long enough? I don't know if I'm asking the question well enough.
Little changes within ourselves.
No, like what you're seeing in the natural setting, let's say. So let's say you're at a lake or a mountain or looking at...
Dusk always gets me.
Dusk is a good example. Because it's happening quicker at dusk.
It's happening fast. Yeah.
Right, it's always happening, but like...
Eyes are changing, so it's kind of like playing a trick on you in general.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like, if the leaf is blowing and moving, that's a change. So it was here and it's going here and doing that. And it's telling you where the wind is. So when we have the mist going, it's like apparent. Like, so you can't see the wind a lot of times. It's hard, but with the mist and the light beaming through, you really can see like it's doing something here and it's not doing it here. And it's like, wow, that's so cool. And it's entertaining. So that's kind of...
Sit and close your eyes. You can be wherever you want.
Yeah, go for it.
I was watching a show this past year, and I was saying that the Amazon River, on its own, because it rushes, is taking all the nutrients out.
Yep.
And really, it should technically be barren. It should get barren very quick because it's being blown away. And then at the same time, I don't know who figured it out, but they said that the dust storms from the Sahara Desert, it like comes together and it actually lands in the Amazon, and that's where it's giving the nitrogen so like if the wind was going the other way, technically there would be a desert where the Amazon is, and the Amazon would be where the Sahara is.
Somewhere else, right?
They feed each other. That.
We had one person that didn't read through and just walked in.